lenders, including banks, will now have to pay borrowers approximately 5,000 rupees every day if there is a delay in release of property documents. The Reserve Bank of India on Wednesday, September 13, issued a directive requiring regulated entities, including banks, NBFCs, ARCs, LABs, co-op banks, among others, to release all original, movable and immovable property documents within 30 days after the full repayment or settlement of loans has been made. Failure to comply with this directive will result in a penalty of 5,000 rupees a day for any delays in the release of these very critical documents, the central bank said in a directive, bringing joy and cheers to perhaps a lot of consumers who have to go back to banks, follow up consistently over a period of time to get their mortgage papers back. Krishna, this is a good news for consumers specifically who by now and for months and years had to wait for their mortgage document, their property documents, to get a hold of that property document after the full repayment of loan has been made.
Right, and this coming from from RBI themselves is a great move, mainly because it makes properties buying and selling and holding on to properties that much more easier in these already troubled times. So a directive from RBI, and the main point here is that it comes with a penalty. Now, these institutions are now being made responsible to ensure people like you and me, the consumers out there who are buying and selling property, get their documents in on time. And this is in that sense, RBI is saying that this is unforgivable, and that now it's up to the NBFCs, it's up to the financial institutions to buck up, to really pull their socks up and start delivering on this matter. And you are talking about a situation where, what will these companies, these NBFCs and banks do if you don't repay the loan? They will send somebody to pick up something from the house. If you get a car loan and you don't repay your installments, say somebody will come and pick up your car and take it away.
Absolutely.
So and here you are, people who have repaid and still waiting for documents to come their way. So clearly there was a balance mismatch over there in terms of expectations and delivery. And this is RBI actively entering the picture and making a huge statement by putting a 5,000 rupee per day fine for duties that they should be completing on a daily basis.
Absolutely, and you correctly pointed out an imbalance therefore has been corrected by way of a banking reform that was much needed. I think what stood out for me in that circular was either you give a reason for why you are delaying releasing of papers, or you give that penalty to the customers who've been waiting for their property papers. And on top of that, not just reason, you've got to be accountable for what you hold. Therefore, if you lose the papers, help your customers procure duplicate copies. I think that also is a problem that many people have been facing over years, where banks, sometimes co-op banks and local banks, end up losing physical movable, immovable property papers, after which you've got customers going pillar to post to get their papers. Now, banks will have to help them out, get a copy or duplicate copy of that paper.
It's placing the accountability clearly on the part of the financial institutions, banks or NBFCs, or as the case may be, a cooperative bank, private bank, public sector bank. Any bank that you talk about, any cooperative bank you talk about, the responsibility is on them to ensure that the borrowers get their documents on time. And more importantly, in instances of documents being lost, it again becomes a responsibility to make sure those lost documents get replaced, because bear in mind the customers need those documents for their future going forward, and how many more commitments they have based on those documents that they need to get, we don't know. So we can't be in waiting for Godot for these documents to come our way.
Absolutely, and essential banking reforms, as I said, RBI has sort of kicked into motion, perhaps will help a lot of borrowers, a lot of customers out there.